नमस्ते, किस्सेबाजी में आपका स्वागत है। क्या आपको कभी लगा है कि आप लोगों से बात नहीं कर पाते हैं, कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर पाते, जो आपको कहना है वो अच्छे से कह नहीं पाते हैं और अपनी फीलिंग्स को, अपने इमोशंस को फील नहीं कर पाते हैं, जता नहीं पाते हैं और अंदर ही अंदर रख लेते हैं? तो आज के हमारे जो गेस्ट हैं वो है जूनी जॉर्ज। She is a founding member of the Fifth Mantra company. She is a communication and emotional coach. In the course of 18 years, उन्होंने हजारों बच्चों और प्रोफेशनल्स की हेल्प करी है to communicate better. That's why in the 2021 she was awarded as a top 10 communicator in the world. I'm very glad that she came to our show and just stay tuned for the whole conversation. You'll learn a lot of things.
What is emotional intelligence?
It is a way of looking at it as self and others.
How communication is so important to you?
Tomorrow you attend someone's funeral and you start laughing there. Would it then be a positive emotion? If we fear being judged by others, it is also happening because we judge others.
Social anxiety, or they don't want to be around people.
We are so caught up with getting more degrees, getting more qualifications and skills, we forget that we should be able to translate it. I had Filipino classmates, Sri Lankan classmates, Bangladeshis, but just because they are different does not mean they are bad.
It's a weakness. I might come across a weak person.
And we end up looking more beautiful in other people's eyes.
Who is Junie and what do you like to do? What are your hobbies or something other than your career? Basically, after you start your career, people directly associate you with that your career only. Your identity, you become that only. Your identity becomes that. So I want to shift that. I want to come back you as a person without all these tags and all this identity. So yeah.
That's a wonderful premise to start with. Trying to find or discover a person behind a name, behind a label, which I think is something increasingly we are losing the art of doing.
Yeah.
Right. More often, even conversations get centered either around family, about jobs, about responsibilities, achievements. But very rarely we are pausing to find out more about what the person thinks, what a person feels. So yes, I find that very refreshing on your part to try and examine the person behind each of these labels. Having said that, I would say that the journey part that you mentioned, that life is a long journey, I think we need to keep remembering that. Very often we limit ourselves with that one achievement or with that one failure or with one designation. We feel that this is it or this is what defines me. But as we grow older and as we have more experiences in life, we realize that the whole process of living life is moving from one point to the next. It's never really about trying to define ourselves in that one slot. Because the minute we start doing that, we are being unfair to ourselves. We stop discovering ourselves. So just as we said that we don't discover other people, the same happens even to our own selves. We stop thinking, what makes me excited, what makes me driven, or what makes me sad, what hurts me. We stop pondering over these very, very crucial thought processes and questions.
So moving forward, basically, so the show name is KisseBaazi, and I like to talk about the moments of the kissa you have happened in your life, or you mentioned because of some things in your life, you realize that how communication is so important to you and how big of a role it plays in your life or it plays in everyone's life. And we don't realize that. You rightly mentioned that. As we always think about other skills as how hardworking you are or how intelligent you are, or but we don't mostly think about how good of a communicator or how good of an orator you are, because these kind of little things makes a very big difference. What was that thing which made you realize in your life, or if you like to share that, that communication plays a very good role, or what if there's something happened to you that you realize, oh, communications is the thing I would like to focus on, or something like that?
I would like to mention three things, in fact, that led to that realization.
Sure.
Starting with my first job, or where I began my career, there were a lot of moments which worked in my favor, which now, when I look back, I realize it wasn't fluke, it wasn't fate, it was based on interactions. Interacting with
Okay.
people, interacting and becoming part of teams, being a good team player really played a crucial role for me. But at the same time, there were certain mistakes I made in my first job, which also happened due to miscommunication. I mean, one can ascribe it to ego or personality issues or clashes, but the key point is miscommunication. Many a time, perceptions, biases are there. We cannot deny that. But those can be cleared if we know
Yeah.
how to communicate correctly at the right time. The second point was in my second job, I encountered a lot of difficulties some of my colleagues were facing. And there again, I realized it was not because they didn't have knowledge, they didn't have skills, or they didn't have experience. The problem was, again, they were not good with their social skills or their people skills. Either it was with problems with the clients or it was problems with their superiors. So that again got me thinking you can have the best of knowledge, the best of capability, but if you're not able to translate it to the value of someone else or for the benefit of someone else, it again goes waste. Right? We are so caught up with getting more degrees, getting more qualifications and skills, we forget that we should be able to translate it or implement it. There's no point in only gathering experience or gathering knowledge. We have to use it with other people and for other people. The third experience was when it came to children. It was in my role as a Trinity exam trainer for the Trinity College. They hold exams in communication. So I was involved with a lot of schools for training their faculty and children right from the age of 6 to 14 years for these exams. And that was where I had a very
Yeah.
close interaction with 6-year-olds, a lot of kids who may have knowledge. However, when they feel that they are not able to speak well or speak as confidently as their classmates, they prefer to keep quiet because they have that fear they will be teased or they will be mocked.
Talking about how was your childhood, and did you face any issues about communication or stage fright or anything like that? Or basically, how was your school life? How did you do?
That was one of the best phases of my life. I did my schooling in Oman,
Yeah.
so I was with Indian School Muscat the
Okay.
entire schooling period, and in those days it was one of the only Indian schools and one of the largest. I had Filipino classmates, Sri Lankan classmates, Bangladeshis,
Oh,
Lebanese. I mean, people
yeah.
of multiple ethnicities were also classmates. So that kind of, led to a very, I would say, inclusive, if I can use the current preferred word. But even before it became a fad, we already were trained to be inclusive because we were used to
Yeah.
interacting with people of different origins. So communication skill, I think, would be my companion from there on. I mean, right from my young days, and I was extremely active on the extracurricular front as well. So I think somewhere those experiences and that environmental conditioning kind of made me enjoy communicating and consider communication as an enjoyable process.
Yeah, like being in a school with that diverse people is an interesting thing, and have never heard of or talked to anybody who have experienced that. And I guess it teaches you a lot of things like that. You understand a lot of culture, and you try to, or you start accepting everybody as who they are and understand people more clearly. That's very nice. Nice thing about it. So leading from that, from communications, we talked about emotional intelligence, or they have been working around that also. So, for a just basic, simple question, what is emotional intelligence according to you, and how big of a role it plays in a human's life, basically?
To put it in a very simple way, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand our own emotions, first of all. Second, to manage those emotions. Third, to understand others' emotions. And finally, managing emotions of others. Right? So, this is putting it in a very simplistic manner. So, it's emotions of self and emotions of others. But rather than looking at it as self versus others, it is a way of looking at it as self and others. Right?
Okay.
So one has to recognize that we all are emotional beings. We have emotions, and there is absolutely nothing wrong in being emotional. There's a very clear difference between saying someone is emotional and thinking that it is a person who has no control over emotions. No, emotional only means a person is expressing their emotion, and all of us do that. Right? There's nothing wrong with it. But the problem comes when we are unable to use or express it in the correct measure or in the correct manner. For example, there are times when people talk about positive and negative emotions.
Okay.
And I often disagree with that thinking because there
Yeah.
really are no negative emotions. Every emotion has a role, right? But how do we use it? In what context do we use it? That is what determines if the outcome is
Okay.
positive or negative. So, to give you an example, people think of happiness, laughter, smile as positive emotions. But if tomorrow you attend someone's funeral and you start laughing there, would it then be a positive emotion? It clearly wouldn't. Right? People would get offended that you're laughing
Not
at
at all.
that funeral.
Yeah.
Similarly, anger, which is considered a
Yeah.
negative emotion, many a time history has been rewritten because of collective anger against oppression or against dictatorship or against injustice. Right? So, emotions are contextual. So, to call any emotion as positive or negative is somewhere being unfair to the emotion. The truth is, we need to be able to recognize which emotion is appropriate, to what degree it is appropriate, and to use that same understanding even when it comes to others. We love to be biased. We like to say somebody is mean, someone is kind, someone is short tempered. But we need to understand where that emotion is coming from. That is how we understand people better. So, emotional intelligence is actually this understanding.
Yeah, as you rightly mentioned, like emotion is all about like letting it out or not holding it. People try to hold anger, and when it bursts out, then they're like, yeah, okay, now. So it's yeah, like you mentioned, as it's how you channelize it in a very right way, an appropriate way. That is all about. What kind of like certain experiences you had in your life, and beyond work, uh, not connected to work and communications. I want to go away from that now and talk to like to talk about you as your life and your experiences. So, what kind of like two, three, or as many as you want experiences in your life happened through which you think, yeah, that shaped you as a person or shaped your life as a person. So, if you have any, I would like to hear something about that.
Experiences, of course, there are so many that, top of mind recall, it actually becomes difficult. But I would definitely try to look at turning points that did
Okay, yeah.
shape me, influence me. One such turning point was when I left home for the first time to pursue my graduation. That was my first experience of living in a hostel, sharing a room with four other people. And so that was, I would say, a pretty big jump in the learning curve because
Yeah.
you are actually learning to adapt in the real sense. You understand people are different, but just because they
Yeah.
are different does not mean they are bad, right?
Yeah.
It's only a matter of building an understanding. You learn to become more patient. You learn to become more flexible in your thought process. Like, you may have an ideology, you may have a principle that you live your life by, and there is no reason why you shouldn't believe in it. However, if someone has a different opinion, at least
Yeah.
learn to develop a listening ear. Learn to be okay with understanding there are different thought processes.
Of
Many a
course.
time people feel that just by listening to a different opinion, it means I'm giving up my individuality. No, that is not what it means. It means we can coexist, right?
Yeah.
Someone believes in eating a particular kind of food, or someone believes in following a certain kind of ritual. They are as entitled to it as I am with my own set of rituals or my own set of preferences, right? And we can coexist. If all of us were meant to do the same thing, then I think in nature there wouldn't be so much of natural diversity. Why should we have the panthers and the elephants and the alligators and the ants, right? If everyone had to just look the same and be the same. So the beauty and the strength of this planet, or of life on this planet, is this diversity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Like you mentioned, that similar things happening all together makes everything overwhelming. I might say so. That's there. There are 2 3 questions left. I would like to ask you that about that. So we talked about if you are comfortable with people, it will be very good for you for your long run to communicate with people. If you are able to just have a connecting, insightful, or just hold on to a conversation. It's a very similar thing. People nowadays, or I also know some people who have some social anxiety, or they don't want to be around people. They just want to be around some tight group, or the comfortable with people whom they are comfortable with, and just spend the whole time or whole days with them only. And they are very skilled, talented, and all. But I see them that they are like lacking something. So how to? Is there any basic or simple things so that they can do to improve that or overcome that kind of thing?
First of all, this hesitation, many a time, that we all have felt it, but if there are people who feel it all the time, it primarily comes from the emotion of fear,
Yeah.
right? This fear of being judged. We are very worried, we are very scared about being judged, especially negatively, right? We are hardly judged positively. So we don't want to be ridiculed, we don't want to be criticized, we don't want to be considered inferior. And so
Yeah.
somewhere it feels like a risk to talk to new people. Like, these 3 people who are my friends, they like me, they have accepted me, I'm a hero or a star in their eyes. But the 4th person I talk to may find something is wrong with my personality, or something is wrong with my ideology. So that is a threat to my sense of self-worth. So why take
Yeah.
that risk, right? So it's better not to hassle yourself. Don't talk only to new people. The
Yeah.
truth is, if we fear being judged by others, it is also happening because we judge others. We
Of
are
course.
constantly in the process of looking at others, putting labels on them. This person is like this, that person is like that. The minute we start becoming more accepting, more appreciative, more encouraging, people respond, right? 9 out of 10 people will respond to someone who is positive to them. There could be one person who may still not trust you or may not like you, and that's okay. But 9 new people becoming more positive towards you is a huge improvement in life. And that can only happen when we learn to accept people. The whole problem is we expect others to understand us. Others should accept us. Others should be kind to us. But are
Yeah.
we really matching up to that expectation? Are we doing those things? We aren't. So
Yeah.
like how I mentioned earlier, being open is extremely important. But at the same time, being positive about people is very important. Just think about it like this. When you meet someone for the first time, what are some of the things you first notice? Most of the times, we are looking for things to find fault with or to make fun of. Those are the first things we pick up. Look at so and so's dressing style. Look at so and so's hairstyle. Look at so and
Yeah.
so's nose, or look at his height. We are constantly looking for reasons to find fault or make fun of others. When you do that, people can pick up the vibe. Even if you don't open your mouth and say anything, there is nonverbal communication that straight away conveys what we think about them or what we feel about them. And once we get that instinct that someone is not liking us, the chances are we will also become, or rather develop, approaches that are negative towards that person. Right? But if we learn to be appreciative, when you see someone do something, learn to give that compliment. And don't do it
Yeah.
in non-genuine way. Genuinely look for a reason to compliment someone and watch how people change or how people develop their approach towards you. And the more we develop that as an attitude, as an approach, it slowly becomes a part of our personality. And then our whole personality looks more radiant, and we end up looking more beautiful in other people's eyes. Because a smiling face is any day more glamorous, more attractive than a face that may have perfect features but looks grumpy.
That's a very beautiful advice or insight people should focus on. Uh, yeah, that's genuinely a thing because, like, rightly, we have been taught, and in class also in lectures, a teacher is teaching, and the person who is nodding the most, he just start talking to that student only, and these kind of little things happen, then automatically you get derived or get pulled by them, and you just start, like, you feel better for yourself and for them too. People are, I myself in that teacher, people, I'm there to listen to everybody. I feel nice when people are telling me things, and I'm always there to just listen and help them or just be a ear to them. But I also want to share, but I find it difficult to share my emotions, my feelings, as I feel like I wouldn't want to burden them with my feelings, or it's a weakness. I might come across a weak person. And so I know this kind of things are not very related to that case. They'll feel burden and that. But there are a lot of people who feel like that. They find difficulty in sharing their emotions, truly what they are feeling. They are just in themselves thinking about it long and long and long and thinking aloud or not. So how do you see that? Is it? I know it's not a good thing, of course, but how can a person tackle that?
In fact, I would say let's look at a small or a simple way of starting the process of expressing oneself. So let's
Yeah.
say there is a discussion happening in the group. It could be about a project or it could be about some person or whatever. First, learn to look at the issue in terms of, do you agree with it or do you not agree with it?
Okay.
Okay? In case you agree with it, do find a spot during the discussion to put that voice in, to say, I think that's a great point. I completely agree with you. If you do. And if you disagree, you can say, you have a very interesting point, but I have a very different point to add here. And put whatever you think differently into that conversation.
Yeah.
Expressing oneself does not mean one talks the maximum or one has to talk a lot.
Yeah.
Expressing means you have an opinion, you have a view. Are you able to put that across? Like two people may like vanilla ice cream, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
One may like vanilla ice cream because it gives them the taste of milk. They like milk, so vanilla is the closest to milky taste. Another may like vanilla because it can be accompanied with other sweets. You can pair it up with gulab jamuns or you can pair it up with jalebis. So they like it because of that. So both like
Yeah.
vanilla, but for different reasons. So all of us have our own reasoning, the way we observe the world, the way we perceive situations. So that can be your contribution to a conversation. Do you agree with it? Why? Do you disagree with it? Why? And just make that point and then again become a participant as a listener. But that is the way you slowly start becoming part of a group. You start becoming involved. Only being a listener is not enough, because communication is of both of these aspects, listening and expressing. Only being a listener, you may gain a lot of knowledge, but your individuality does not get a chance to grow.
Yeah.
But only being a speaker is also a problem. People will slowly start distancing themselves because nobody wants someone who will not give them a chance to speak.
Thank you so much, and beautiful words, and very kind of you to say all this. But yeah, genuinely, thank you so much, and I really had fun, and we have behind my mind, I was just thinking like if I was planning, because we talked a certain amount of or certain we covered a certain kind of things right now. I would genuinely love to come to Pune or have a chat with you in person if we can talk. So right now, if we are bound to not, I am not able to come there, or there are certain things. So I don't know. I didn't want to miss out on an opportunity to have a word with you. So we did it online, but beyond it, I would genuinely like to meet you, and we can have a conversation there and yeah, sit sometime and talk. That's it. So before that, thank you so much for coming, and yeah, thank you for being patient.
Thank you. Thank you, Piyush. My pleasure, totally. And yes, you're welcome to Pune anytime that you're able to. It would be wonderful to sit and have a conversation of our own.
Thank you so much.